welcome to the Feed to Succeed podcast. I'm Betsy Youngren, registered dietitian and pediatric nutrition expert. And today I'm here with my co-host.
Hi everyone, it's Jen Caracosta, family and consumer sciences teacher and culinary coach.
Hi Jen.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. Happy Saturday.
Yeah, happy Saturday. Here we are.
Here we are.
Getting fancier in our studio.
Yeah, very fancy. I'm enjoying all of this. It's very professional.
It's so professional.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to briefly tell you what's going on here in Feed to Succeed. So
Okay.
We are getting ready to launch a new website in a few weeks.
Okay, I'm excited.
I am too. It's really beautiful. I'm really excited. A couple times I even got teary-eyed looking at it.
Oh, I can't wait.
I know. I'm really happy about it. But anyway, so one of the things that I've always wanted to do all my life is be a movie star.
Yep, I understand that. I would like to be a backup singer for Fleetwood Mac. But,
Okay.
you know, we all have dreams. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I thought I've always wanted to marry my movie stardom with making Feed to Succeed videos and things available to people so they don't have to come into the office to see me. They don't have to spend money if their insurance won't cover it. They can just go on the website and find information. So I've had a big roadblock with this. I've actually been dreaming about it for about 10 years.
Wow.
But step by step haven't really known what to do, and it's kind of intimidating. And so the podcast actually helped me because I got my foot dipped into the idea of recording and editing some information and putting that out there.
Sure.
And things have kind of gone on since there. So I did finally hire somebody, a professional guy, who's helping me learn how to do these videos. He's actually teaching me so that I could potentially do them independently at some point.
Okay, that's really neat.
But yeah.
And you said that he's really good at kind of organizing your content. Like you have a lot of thoughts and things that you want to do, but that he's really good at putting it, down in a way that makes sense, but that also feels good to you as well.
Yeah, and I have this whole theory on people and their brains, and I think some people think linearly, and some people think like a scatter plot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm a scatter plot.
Okay.
And I think you can be very intelligent and have important things to share no matter how your brain works. But for me, taking the scatter plot and organizing it in a way that I can make sense out of it to deliver the information is a struggle. So he's good at that.
Okay. That's good self-awareness on your part.
It's taken a while to get there.
That's okay. We're all a work in progress.
Yeah, thank you.
We are.
Yeah. So that's really helpful, and I really appreciated it. He was like, I need you to make some scripts of what you're actually going to say so I can see it before you do it. So I recorded like I was podcasting on my own, and then I transcribed it into words, and I sent it to him, and he was like, okay. So
We got a little work to do here.
These are good ideas and good thoughts, which he's very kind about. But let's try and organize this.
Okay, that's good.
It is good.
I mean, I think also we've kind of made it where we have a topic, but we don't have a script because we wanted it to feel more like a conversation. But
Right.
I could see that with content that you're putting in a video, it
needs
can't
to be
necessarily
pointed.
just be a stream of consciousness. It has to be,
There's a point.
there's a point to it.
Right. Yeah, there's like this whole structure, like there's got to be a problem, and then I've got to explain the problem, and then I've got to explain the solution. We don't always do that here. We just kind of chat about nutrition stuff.
Right. And sometimes we don't necessarily know that there is a solution, or that's not what we're trying to do. I mean, I don't know that we're trying to be so prescriptive.
No,
But,
we're just having a discussion, an
Right.
open forum.
right.
Yeah.
Yours has to be almost like the classic 5-paragraph essay,
Correct.
Which
I sucked at that.
And so it's funny you say that because as a linear thinker,
Are you?
I'm very linear.
I can see that
This
from you.
made total sense to me. I was like, I can do this. I can do my opening paragraph, my 3 supporting statement thoughts, and then my ending paragraph. So, yeah, that worked for me.
So this is the All About Me show today. So my senior year of high school, I decided I was going to take an AP Lit class. And I knew, like, intellectually I could handle the concept.
Okay.
But I got to this class, and there were only 15 kids out of my whole graduating class of 600 in this class.
Oh, wow.
And the other 14 were probably linear thinkers.
Okay. So that made it a little uphill battle for
Yeah.
you.
And the teacher, people were scared of her. She was known for being really strict and really tough.
Okay.
So I took this class, and literally, like, the whole class was reading and writing about what you're reading. The first project, she was like, we have to meet.
And it wasn't just like a get to know you session, it was a little
No.
bit about how you organize your thoughts into a paper.
Yes.
Okay.
She, like, I was 17 when somebody tried to actually teach me how to organize my thoughts in a written way.
Okay. Do you have good memories of that teacher?
This is what I'm going to tell you, okay? So, yes, she was strict and she was tough,
Mm-hmm.
but when I got to that class, even though like, you know how you can do something, but you feel insecure about it?
Totally.
So this was like the top 14 kids in my class, and you know how they rank you? I was probably like 136th,
Okay.
and the other top 14. So I felt very insecure, and when I got in there and they were all like really high level thinkers and really good writers already, I was like, oh shoot,
Yeah.
I don't know. And this teacher worked with me, and she taught me, and she believed that I could do it. That was the first time I actually put effort into anything at school.
There you go.
And so second semester, she would have us grade ourselves. And she said, what do you think you got in this class? What do you think you deserve? I said, I worked my butt off. I really think I should get an A-. I didn't have the confidence to say I really want an A. So I said, I think I should get an A-. And she said, okay. And she gave me an A- in that class. But then the real truth came, because I had to go take the AP exam.
Okay.
I was like, is she just being nice to me
Right.
because she feels sorry for me and she knows how hard I've worked, or did she really believe in me?
Right.
And I passed that exam.
Good for you.
And
Good
so
for you.
yes, and so that was my senior year, and that was a turning point for me to realize, because I had never really been a studier, and I had never really applied myself.
Yeah.
That was a turning point for me to realize, yes, I had the capability, and if I worked at it, I could succeed at it. I didn't really know that about me.
Okay. Okay.
So I went to college and got all A's,
Good for you.
and I had never been an A student. I'd been B's, get by,
Yeah.
do as little work as necessary to
just
keep my mother from bothering me.
Right. Okay.
So anyway, that was a really long way of saying yes, she was a great, amazing teacher.
Because she believed in you.
She believed
Yeah.
in me.
Yeah.
And she wasn't a great teacher because she was my best friend and she was warm and fuzzy. It was because she really taught me and she made me believe in myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that those are some of the best teachers out there.
I
And
know.
if you can, show a kid that you actually believe in them and,
Yeah.
and in their skills and abilities, because kids are conditioned a lot to think they're bad at something, and then that is perpetuated.
Mm-hmm.
So their mindset changes, and certainly we know lots about growth mindsets and fixed mindsets.
Yeah.
And you keep telling yourself you're bad at math, you'll stay bad at math.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got that growth mindset, you'll be able to actually grow into something, and it might not be your best. You might not be majoring in it, but you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, you can, yeah.
I can certainly think of some teachers that I had in high school that understood kind of the help I needed, or I wish I would have realized maybe a little sooner that my social life wasn't as important. I did fine.
Yeah.
Certainly totally fine. But it wasn't until second semester of my sophomore year that I was like, oh, I could probably get all A's in college.
Mm-hmm.
I better get in gear. And I did. You can certainly see it. And actually in job interviews, I've gotten questioned. Like, talk to me about your transcript. I'm like, well, I'll tell you a little
Your
story.
high school transcript?
No, my college transcript.
Oh, okay.
Like, with not some great grades on it.
Okay.
And I'm like, if you can see from here, if you look at the projection, and they're like, oh, yeah, good story. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting how people come to these points at different times in their life.
Yeah.
I've always felt like I'm kind of late to the game with this kind of thing, like figuring out my abilities, or like right now, I feel late to the game with, I'm growing this amazing business, but I'm in my mid-40s.
So what?
I know.
So what?
I'm a late bloomer,
That's
intellectually.
Well, it's funny you say that. My best friend, Gina, since we were 4,
Cute.
She is in grad school getting her master's to be a mental health counselor, so her degree in counseling. One of her professors said, you really should go for your doctorate. And so she told us, we've been having weekly friend Zoom meetings, and everyone said, you should, why wouldn't you? And she said, because I'm 45, and by the time I'm done, I'm going to be in my 50s. And we all said, so what? Dude, go for it, you know? So I don't know that there is a late to the game.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to do it, go do it. And if someone tells you, you know, maybe think about this.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Absolutely, that's a good point too. People say things that are like messages that you have to pay attention to.
Absolutely.
You have to filter some out, but sometimes you're meant to hear things.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. These are our deep thoughts for
These
today.
are.
Should we get to our topic?
I guess so.
Okay.
So, if you're joining us today, it doesn't sound like this, but we're talking about vegetarian diets.
Well, so we did start about you're getting a new website, you're working on new content.
Correct.
And one of the pieces of content is how to have a healthy vegetarian diet. Because there is certainly such a thing as a very unhealthy
And in
vegetarian
this
diet.
particular episode, it's not only that, but it's also if you have IBS, vegetarian diet can be more complicated. And so then Christian, my amazing videographer, said, do you have any content we can link us to on your podcast? I was like, no.
Right.
So here we are. We're talking about vegetarian diets today.
Okay.
We're going to leave the IBS for the video series because there's going to be a course related to it if people want to take a course. But we're just talking about vegetarian diets.
Okay. So one thing was kind of coming to mind several years ago, as part of one of my professional organizations, we took a tour of Whole Foods.
Okay.
And it was interesting, and they took us around the store to talk about their products and why they have certain products on the shelves and what meets their criteria to have their products. But they talked about they don't like to use the word vegetarian diet, they like to use the words plant-based diet.
Yeah.
And something that stuck with me because they said, you know, you can eat Doritos and drink Diet Coke and call yourself a vegetarian.
That's true.
Which is true. So saying plant-based diet is going to be meaning something different, and that is not necessarily an endorsement to go shop at Whole Foods. You could certainly have a plant-based diet and shop anywhere, but what does that mean? So
Right, and interestingly, so you can actually eat a plant-based diet and still consume some animal proteins. So it's not
fully,
yeah.
you gotta look at your packaging.
Yeah, I mean, I could eat a plant-based diet and eat 95% plants. I'm still plant-based, 5% some meat, right?
Right.
I know that's not what they mean when they say that,
No.
but just in terms of how we categorize some of these things. So when I don't even know how old, probably 7 or 8.
Okay.
I have this very distinct memory of being in my grandma's house around the table, and I think there was ham.
Okay.
And I have this really distinct memory of being like, for the first time, really stopping and being like, oh, that's a pig.
Okay.
Do you have any memories like that?
You know, I do. I think when you start to kind of realize like where things come from, and even right now my kids they ask, well, what is this?
Right.
And I'm like, well, it's from the cow. They're like, well, what part of the cow? And so they're not, you know, they're seeing, you know, cow in a book or something like that, and then they realize there's something on their plate, you know. So they haven't necessarily made those full connections, but absolutely, I do remember that. And I think I told you the story about my mom at Easter one time serving us lamb and trying to pass it off as roast beef because she knew we wouldn't eat it, and I was like, this doesn't taste right. Like, well, this isn't roast beef. And sure enough, that's literally lamb, roast lamb. So.
And were you upset?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, because I was like, this is not what, just tell us what it is, don't lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, you know.
Yeah. My mother-in-law tells a story about being a little girl on the farm and her pet rabbit, and one night they had rabbit stew, and then the next day she went to play with her pet rabbit and it was gone.
Yeah, oh god, it's just, oh my god, it's a life lesson right there.
Yeah, it is.
It's a circle of life.
Mm.
It's a farm.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens a lot.
Probably.
Yeah, no.
So I had this experience when I was young. I'm sure all kids do at some point, where you kind of make that connection
Sure.
with, if you eat meat, It's an animal.
Yeah.
And I remember kind of from there over the next few years feeling like, I kind of feel sad about this, but it tastes real good.
Yep.
And so, that kind of played in the back of my head. And as I got older and I got more interested in nutrition, I also have a memory, this is so random. I have a memory, it was probably in 8th or 9th grade, and my church youth group went on this bike trip. And so I was going to be away from my family, and I decided that weekend I was going to be a vegetarian.
What a great idea. Oh, that sounds real, yeah.
So I told everybody I'm a vegetarian.
Oh, I'm sure that the leaders were like, I'm gonna, seriously? No, you're not. I'm just kidding.
But I don't know, like I'm saying, I was probably 13 or 14, and what that meant to me was I'm not eating the meat that you're serving, but I'll just eat, everybody's gonna have a hamburger, and I'm just gonna have the bun.
Oh my gosh.
And I think one night they served spaghetti and meatballs, and I just ate the spaghetti. And I think that's how a lot of kids kind of dabble in vegetarianism.
Oh, sure. They just, they're eating everything but the meat that's served on their plate, and they're not necessarily thinking about what being a vegetarian and being a healthy vegetarian actually means.
Right.
Yeah. It's not just becoming a pasta-based diet.
Well, yeah, right. It's not to be in a healthy way. I mean, that's
Right.
how they do. A lot of kids do it that way.
Sure.
And even younger kids, I see younger kids who aren't meat eaters. It's pretty common because meat's chewy.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have kids who maybe have had some oral motor difficulties and chewing is kind of tiring, and they just don't like meat, so they kind of naturally just eat everything but the meat.
Sure.
It's a common concern I get in the office. Parents who are concerned about their kids eating these in this way.
Sure.
Do you have students who do this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do ask in the beginning of the year if there's dietary restrictions that I should be aware of. We are aware from our health services office of any allergies, which is a different story.
Yeah.
But I also want them to write that down for me. I write it down then in my book, so I've got it. But then also dietary restrictions, just something I need to know. If someone's gluten-free because by choice or they're vegetarian. I did have one student once tell me, she said, I'm vegan, but I eat chicken. I was like,
Then you're not.
vegan.
Did you inform her about that, or did you let it go?
I may have let it go for then, and then when I got to know her a little bit better, I was like, let's talk about that. Because I was like, I don't want to put this kid on the spot and make her feel bad, but I was curious, and I think she just needed a little, maybe, education on what that meant. So, but yeah, I have kids that are vegetarian, so we've tried to add more vegetarian dishes to our curriculum, as well as giving vegetarian options. So, to try to make it so that a kid can enjoy what they've made.
Okay.
So,
have you ever talked to any of your kids about vegetarianism? Like, what are the reasons for it? Is it family? Is it personal? What do you hear about?
all over the place.
Okay.
I think it's inhumane to animals. I just don't like the taste. It's a texture thing. I ate meat, and now I've been vegetarian for 5 years, but my parents really want me to go back to eating meat. It's interesting. It's kind of all over the board, and so it's a good conversation. But like I said, I usually kind of save those for when I get to know them a little bit better, so they don't feel like I'm like putting them on the spot on the first day of school.
Right.
But some, like I've said this before in our series, I never force a kid to eat anything that they've made, because that's not the whole purpose of the class. But some will say, oh, try it, a taste of this. And like, go ahead, that's fine if you want to. So, yeah.
And you've had kids who are vegetarian taste a meat-based dish? Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like a bite, nothing extravagant, But I also don't want a kid to, because all of a sudden they're going to make this shift in my class or something like that. I don't want them to feel sick to their stomach the rest of the day or something like that. So there's some things to that. But
sure.
But when you have parents come in here with kids that are little and they're not eating the meat for whatever reason, and they're concerned, what do you tell them?
Right. And I mean, well, something you said that just triggered a thought, and now it's running away from me because now I'm thinking about that. Anyway, maybe it'll come back to me. But usually what I do Oh, I know what it was. It's real hard when like you said, I get to know the kids and then I talk to them about their choice and why.
Mm-hmm.
When I see them, a lot of times I need to know why they've chosen this path
Right.
at the first visit, and I don't know them, and it's hard. Like, I'm always awkward in those questions, like, well, why did you choose to be a vegetarian? And you don't want to come off like you're trying to be judgy, because I'm not. You can be a healthy vegetarian. I just
Yeah, but
wanna
you're also
know.
trying to get a history, and my reasoning is different.
Right,
Yeah,
but
so.
that's hard.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I hear recently with older kids, not the little ones, too, this is newer to the table of reasons, is they're concerned about the environment and the carbon footprint.
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, as the years have gone on, I feel like I'm
Yeah.
hearing that more
I
about
didn't hear
kids.
so
Yeah.
much 10, 15 years ago, but now I do.
No.
But when families come into my office, sometimes it's young kids, often it's toddlers.
Mm-hmm.
And in those cases, they're not making ethical and carbon footprint choices. These are toddlers.
Right.
And then on the flip side, then it would be like teenage kids who have made a new dietary choice to be vegetarian, the parent is concerned. But what I usually do is ask them to keep some food records.
Mm-hmm.
And I go through the food records, and I'm pretty good at it because I've used MyFitnessPal for so many years. I'm really kind of got everything in my head, like food stats.
Sure.
So I kind of eyeball and total up some main things. I look at calories, but that's not a big deal because unless the kid has a weight issue, I don't really go there. But we look at how much protein they're eating and the quality of it. And I always look at calcium because 95% of the kids I see don't get enough calcium. And I total that up from their food records, and then I provide them with some education about what they need
Okay.
for normal growth and development. And I ask them, are you meeting your needs? What can we do to make things better?
Right.
And so that's pretty effective for most of the teenagers. They'll be like, oh.
Right.
And sometimes they're doing a good job and they're fine. But it's a good way for the teenagers to kind of get some understanding and come to their own conclusion without mom or dad or somebody saying, you have to eat meat.
Right. Right. Yeah. Because that's not going to be a healthy option either. I think it becomes an unhealthy relationship with food and kind of a mind game a little bit. So that's a whole nother separate story. But, when you're thinking of those two things, protein and calcium, do the kids know what those do in
No, I
their
teach
bodies?
that to them if they don't. But
Right.
sometimes we'll say, well, what kind of discussions have you had around this at school
Mm-hmm.
or with your family? What do you know already about this topic?
Yeah.
And then I try and fill in some of those blanks for them.
Okay.
The kids who are into sports and athletics get it quick because they've heard about their needs for protein and building muscle.
Right.
Especially boys, they'll be like, okay, I get this, because the boys, I'm not trying to be gender biased, but they tend to be really concerned at that age about building muscle,
Okay.
bodybuilding.
Sure.
And it's not that protein and calcium are the only things that are a problem, because we were saying like, okay, some of these kids, they just drop the meat and then they eat the pasta, and now it's unbalanced because they're eating all these carbs. That's an issue too. We talk about fruits and vegetables, but I assess the individual situation. If fruits and vegetables are the problem, then we start there. If protein is inadequate, then that's what I start with the education piece. It just varies.
Sure. And talk about what do you recommend in terms of proteins?
For actual food sources.
Yeah.
So I have this beautiful list from one of my professional organization magazines. It's a 2-page list of it's called the protein content of food.
Okay.
I think it's from Today's Dietitian some years ago. And there's actually a typo on it that I always have to fix. Sorry, guys. But it has it by category. It has animal proteins, seafood proteins, plant proteins, nut and seed, and dairy substitutes. And it lists by portion how many grams of protein there are in each of these. So I go through the list. It's a big list.
Sure.
I say you have plenty of options. Look at all these options.
Yeah.
There's lots of options. And sometimes, depending on the kid, some of the older kids